Florida GOP and the Florida Republican legislature that is proving the biblical proverb was correct long ago, that a dog returns to its own vomit. That's right. Second verse, same as the first. We just can't get out of the muck and the mire. They just hid themselves well for a while. Okay, let me set this up for you. For years, under a GOP majority, the state of Florida, while conservative on paper, have been a haven for special interest groups, particularly those of big ag, big marijuana, and big immigration. But enter Ron DeSantis. Now, he was an obscure congressman, really, part of the Freedom Caucus, helped to start the Freedom Caucus, but really unknown, ran in the GOP gubernatorial primary against the then Florida Ag Commissioner Adam Putnam. That's important. We'll come back to that in a moment. DeSantis would win the GOP primary, then go on to face Tallahassee Mayor, at the time, Andrew Gillum. DeSantis would narrowly defeat Gillum, which is amazing considering the fact that Gillum was caught in a hotel room doing cocaine off of a gay hooker's behind. But I digress. DeSantis was a unicorn. He led against the wishes of many of the powerful special interest groups that had dominated Florida for so long. He ran and led further to the political and social right than any governor in modern times, maybe in history, at least recent history. But the special interest groups still had their people in positions of power and elected office. And those people, they had to sit and they had to go along with Governor DeSantis because the political winds demanded they do so if they wanted to remain in power. But now, fast forward to today, seeing that Ron DeSantis is about to be term limited out of office, the backstabbing, vote for sale, special interest beholden rhinos in Florida are taking off their masks. Florida House Speaker Daniel Perez gavelled out of the first session that was called by Governor DeSantis, only to gavel in a new session called by the legislature. Now, this from the Star Tribune and the Associated Press. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis promised Wednesday to veto a sweeping immigration bill in the latest escalation of a state house showdown between the governor and the state's Republican legislative leadership. The bill, which was shepherded by House Speaker Daniel Perez and Senate President Ben Albritton, cedes DeSantis' oversight authority on immigration procedures and grants it to the state's agricultural commissioner, now Wilton Simpson. Now, not only that, but the rewritten bill has all the teeth taken out of immigration enforcement anyway. For example, Governor DeSantis' bill calls for maximum state and local assistance in the apprehension and deportation of illegal immigrants, while the new bill allocates money to local agencies but doesn't provide specific direction on who needs to aid in the effort. So it's clear that all the Florida GOP wanted to do was to dismiss DeSantis' direction right away and offer him their version of the bill, which I would argue they know he would veto. And why do they want him to veto it? Well, because then they can get negative headlines of DeSantis vetoing an immigration reform bill. And even the name of their bill, the Trump Act, they're trying to paint DeSantis as this fascistic, against Trump tyrant, unwilling to work with his lowly state colleagues in elected leadership. You see, the Florida legislature is bucking DeSantis because they were never with him in the first place. They didn't want to do all the freedom protecting and affirming legislation that DeSantis had spearheaded over the past 6 years. Adam Putnam, way back when, was their anointed one. And now, Ag Commissioner Wilton Simpson. Now, why Ag Commissioners, you might wonder? Well, that's because big ag, that is big agriculture, is supported by big immigration. Yeah, I said it. America's illegal immigration problem is really not one of borders in the sense that we're just simply not enforcing immigration law. It's true we're not enforcing the law. It's true a wall would help. But illegal immigration, like abortion, like gender mutilation surgeries, like big pharma, like education, has become a multi-billion-dollar industry that supports other industries. For crying out loud, we just heard the cosplaying fake Reverend Bud pleading with Donald Trump to have compassion and mercy on those who pick our crops, her words, clean our hotel rooms, do our manufacturing labor, and so on. Isn't it interesting? You know, whenever you hear progressives talking about why we need to keep illegal immigrants and let them do whatever they want at our expense, and they say it's because, well, they'll take the jobs that Americans will never take, which is nonsense. But they say it over and over in one way or another, just like that non-reverend did in her demonic presentation of pastoral satire. Illegal immigration is an industry that supports other industries like big marijuana and big ag. They need illegal immigration because their power is built in part upon it. The illegal immigration debate in America has nothing to do with giving families a better opportunity or a better life or any of the nonsense that the mainstream media regurgitates for your consumption. That's just window dressing to justify their destruction of our country. And note when I say progressives, in saying that, I'm not excluding Republicans from that group because clearly, save for a small few, they're in on it too. Now, the opposition that we're fighting are people in our own party. The Florida legislature right now is trying to render Governor DeSantis a lame duck before your very eyes. And they're saying right out in the open, we want open borders. We want illegal immigrants. They want the cheap labor. Why? Because their power depends on it. Now, last I checked, isn't that a form of slavery? I thought we didn't do that in America. I thought we no longer exploited people, especially not from foreign lands, for the exponential gain of the wealthy and the powerful. But I guess I was wrong. And why not? Mexico would be happy to trade some of their worst criminals and all kinds of cheap labor as long as the American dollars can flow at least a little bit right back to the homeland. Or the cartels, maybe. Oh, and the rest of those dollars, well, that's how you keep your job if you're a politician in America, don't you know? When will we, as Americans, wake up to the fact that we don't have a conservative movement, we don't have a freedom movement in America? I'm sorry, we don't. Donald Trump is his own unique movement. Ron DeSantis is his own unique movement. But when they're gone, their movements will be gone too. If we think we have a movement of liberty, and if we want it to remain, we're going to have to form a new and robust party that fights for, wins back, and protects freedom and liberty for generations to come. And that's not an easy thing to say, and certainly not to do, because there's no money in freedom and liberty. There's no centralized power brokers in freedom and liberty. And so, freedom and liberty are not appealing to a two-party system that is funded on both sides by the same special interests. Right now, we have a reprieve with the Trump administration, okay? That means we have a little bit of time, 18 months, maybe 2 years, to get our defenses ready. Because the backlash to the 2024 election will be swift and severe. And look what the Florida legislature is already doing to Governor DeSantis. They hate the fact that he bucked the system. They resent his success, even though you would think they would be thrilled that DeSantis has presided over the effective destruction and demolishment of the Democrat Party in Florida, left them in ruins, smoking piles of ash heap, so much so that the Democrats didn't even put money into the last election, at least very much, to a great degree. If the Florida GOP would follow suit and carry that banner forward, Florida could go so deep red, the only blue nearby would be the Atlantic Ocean. But the Florida GOP, at least in their power ranks, are not really for true freedom and liberty. And they're just fine endangering your family and mine by allowing into your neighborhoods all kinds of people that no one knows anything about, that you have to pay for. Who knows why they're here and what their intentions might be, but we have to let them in. You have to pay for them because we need people to pick the crops. Lord knows you won't do it. We figured out, in my view, a new form of political slavery, wherein you are offered a perpetual state of numbed comfort. As long as you let your betters, your political betters, do the thinking for you. You can have your smartphones, your big name concerts, your streaming services, and you can march for all your causes. And while you're hypnotized by all that, we'll destroy your community from the inside out using your hard-earned dollars. And you'll keep thanking us by giving us your vote every 2, 4, and 6 years because we know just what to say to make sure that your vote doesn't leave this plantation. I guess the Eagles were right when they sang, You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.